At 0947 hours on November 9, 1943, Staff Sergeant Alan Magee crouched in the ball turret of a B-17 Flying Fortress at 26,000 feet over Dusseldorf, Germany, watching another bomber from his formation explode 400 yards to his left. The bomber was Yankee Doodle, piloted by Captain James Morrison, 23 years old, 7 missions completed. 1 Me-109 attack from 6 o'clock high, 3 seconds of cannon fire. The bomber broke apart. 10 men dead before they could bail out. Magee had seen it happen 14 times in the past month. Always the same angle of attack, 6 o'clock high, 15 degrees above horizontal. The blind spot. Every ball turret gunner knew about it. The turret's own structure blocked visibility in a narrow cone directly behind and above. 15 degrees of arc where gunners couldn't see incoming fighters. German pilots knew about it too. They'd figured out that if they approached from that exact angle, ball turret gunners couldn't spot them until cannon fire was already hitting. The gunnery manual said maintain constant visual scanning to minimize blind spot exposure. The engineering report said the structural limitation was unavoidable. You couldn't see through the turret's attachment mount. Accept it as combat reality. But Magee had watched 14 bombers die because gunners couldn't see fighters that were right behind them. And he just figured out a solution using something he'd bought at a barbershop in London for 25 cents. A shaving mirror. Before we reveal how a barber's mirror saved bomber crews the AAF said couldn't be saved, smash that subscribe button. Like and comment if simple tools beat complex engineering. This channel exposes innovations regulations tried to prohibit. Now let me show you how one gunner's mirror trick rewrote defensive tactics. The Sperry ball turret was the most exposed position on a B-17 Flying Fortress. A spherical plexiglass and aluminum structure mounted underneath the bomber's fuselage. It housed one gunner and 2.50 caliber machine guns. The gunner sat in a fetal position with his knees drawn up, surrounded by ammunition belts, hydraulic lines, and the mechanisms that rotated the turret 360 degrees horizontally and 90 degrees vertically. The position offered unobstructed views in almost every direction: forward, aft, left, right, down. It was designed to protect the bomber's vulnerable belly from fighter attacks. But it had one fatal flaw that Sperry engineers either didn't recognize or couldn't solve. There was a 15-degree cone of blindness directly behind and above the turret where the mounting structure blocked the gunner's view. That blind spot was exactly where German fighter pilots learned to attack from. The ball turret weighed 1,000 pounds empty, 1,150 pounds with gunner and ammunition. It required hydraulic power to rotate and elevate. If hydraulic pressure failed, the turret froze in position and the gunner was trapped until ground crew manually cranked it open. Alan Magee was 22 years old in November 1943, from Plainfield, New Jersey. He'd enlisted in the Army Air Corps in 1942 and trained as a ball turret gunner at Flexible Gunnery School in Las Vegas. The training emphasized aircraft recognition, deflection shooting, and constant visual scanning. Instructors drilled the blind spot problem into every student. You can't see directly behind and above. Compensate by scanning aggressively. Communicate with waist gunners who can cover that angle. Never assume the sky is clear just because you don't see fighters. Magee graduated third in his class, scored 89% on aircraft recognition tests. He could identify Me-109s, FW-190s, and Me-110s from silhouettes at 800 yards. He knew how to lead targets, how to calculate deflection, how to manage ammunition. But nothing in training prepared him for how terrifying the blind spot would be in combat. On his first mission over Schweinfurt on October 14, 1943, Magee's formation was attacked by 40 German fighters. The engagement lasted 18 minutes. Magee fired 900 rounds, claimed one probable kill on an FW-190. But twice during the fight, German fighters appeared in his gun sight coming from angles he hadn't seen them approach. The first time, a Me-109 materialized 200 yards directly in front of him, already firing. Magee returned fire, the fighter broke away. He hadn't seen where it came from. The second time was worse. An FW-190 hit his bomber from above and behind the blind spot. Magee heard the cannon fire before he saw the fighter. 20mm shells walked up the fuselage. One round hit the radio operator's compartment. The radio operator, Sergeant David Kowalski, died instantly. The FW-190 dove away. Magee spun his turret trying to track it, but the fighter was already gone. He'd never seen it approaching. After that mission, Magee talked to other ball turret gunners at Molesworth. Everyone had similar stories. Fighters appearing suddenly from behind and above. You'd be scanning forward, checking left and right, then suddenly tracers or cannon fire from an angle you couldn't see. The waist gunners were supposed to call out threats from the blind spot. But in the chaos of combat with multiple fighters attacking, communications broke down. Waist gunners had their own sectors to cover. They couldn't watch the ball turret's blind spot constantly. The problem was geometric. The ball turret attached to the fuselage through a circular mounting ring. That ring and the associated structural bracing created a cone of obstruction approximately 15 degrees wide centered on the 6 o'clock high position. A gunner could rotate the turret to look straight up, could rotate to look straight back, but couldn't see the specific angle where those two directions intersected. German fighter pilots discovered this vulnerability by mid-1943. Intelligence reports from interrogated Luftwaffe pilots revealed they were specifically trained to attack B-17s from the ball turret blind spot. Approach from behind and above at 15-degree elevation, close to 400 yards, fire a 3-second burst, break away below. The ball turret gunner couldn't see the attack coming. The top turret gunner was focused forward and couldn't depress his guns low enough. The waist gunner's fields of fire didn't cover that specific angle. It was a defensive gap German fighters exploited ruthlessly. Between September and October 1943, the 8th Air Force lost 152 B-17s over Germany. Post-mission analysis of damaged aircraft and survivor testimony indicated approximately 40% of losses involved fighters attacking from angles the crew couldn't effectively cover, including the ball turret blind spot. The 303rd Bomb Group, Magee's unit, lost 9 B-17s in October. Magee knew the crews personally. Lieutenant Thomas Hayes, pilot of Lucky Penny, killed when an Me-109 attacked from 6 o'clock high. The ball turret gunner, Sergeant Frank Morrison, never saw the fighter. The bomber exploded before anyone could bail out. Captain James Sullivan, pilot of Memphis Belle II, lost when an FW-190 raked his aircraft from the blind spot. Sullivan managed to hold the bomber level long enough for 6 crew members to bail out. Then it went into a spin. Sullivan and 3 others died in the crash. Sergeant Robert Chen, another ball turret gunner, survived when his bomber was hit from the blind spot, but came back severely wounded. Chen told Magee he'd been scanning constantly, looking everywhere he could see, and still didn't spot the fighter until cannon shells were hitting. Chen said it felt like fighting with one eye closed. You knew something was there, but you couldn't see it. Chen flew 2 more missions, then was grounded with combat fatigue. He couldn't handle the terror of sitting in that turret knowing fighters could attack from an angle he couldn't defend against. Magee started experimenting with solutions on November 1, 1943. His first idea was installing a small mirror angle to reflect the blind spot area. He'd gotten the idea from watching a barber in London position mirrors so customers could see the back of their head. If mirrors could show angles you couldn't see directly, why couldn't the same principle work in a ball turret? The problem was finding the right mirror and figuring out where to mount it. The ball turret was cramped. Every square inch was occupied by guns, ammunition feeds, hydraulic lines, or the gunner's body. There was no obvious place to attach a mirror where it wouldn't interfere with turret operation or block other sight lines. Magee bought a shaving mirror at a barbershop supply store in London during a 3-day pass. Cost him 2 shillings, roughly 25 cents in American currency. The mirror was 4 inches in diameter, convex glass in a chrome frame designed to magnify for shaving. Magee thought the convex shape might actually help by providing a wider field of view. Back at Molesworth on November 4th, Magee took the mirror to the flight line during maintenance hours. His bomber, Ruthless Ruthie, was undergoing routine inspection. The ground crew was changing oil, checking hydraulic pressure, replacing worn ammunition belts. Magee climbed into the ball turret with his mirror and spent 30 minutes trying to figure out where to mount it. His first attempt was attaching the mirror to the turret's plexiglass canopy directly in front of his face. He used adhesive tape from the maintenance kit. The mirror stayed in place but blocked too much of his forward vision. He could see the blind spot reflected in the mirror, but couldn't see directly ahead well enough to aim his guns. Second attempt was mounting the mirror on the left side of the turret interior where his peripheral vision could catch the reflection without obstructing his main sightline. Better position, but the angle was wrong. He could see the mounting ring structure reflected but not the sky above and behind it, the actual blind spot where fighters appeared. Third attempt worked. Magee mounted the mirror on a small metal bracket attached to the turret's internal frame rail on the upper left side, angled 45 degrees upward. In this position, the mirror reflected the area directly above and behind the turret. When Magee looked slightly left, he could see the reflection showing the blind spot. The viewing angle wasn't perfect, the reflection was distorted by the convex mirror and the plexiglass canopy created some glare. But Magee could see sky that was previously invisible. He could see if anything was up there coming toward him. The mounting system was crude. The bracket was bent from a piece of scrap aluminum sheeting. Magee secured it with 2 screws that technically violated regulations. You weren't supposed to drill holes in turret structural components without engineering approval. The mirror was held to the bracket with more adhesive tape wrapped multiple times. The whole assembly looked improvised and unauthorized, which it was. Magee knew if the engineering officer saw it, he'd order immediate removal and probably write Magee up for unauthorized modifications. But Magee didn't care about regulations. He cared about seeing fighters before they killed him. The next mission was scheduled for November 5th, a raid on Gelsenkirchen. Magee flew with his unauthorized mirror installed. The mission encountered heavy fighter opposition over the Ruhr Valley. Magee counted 22 separate fighter attacks on his bomber group during the 40-minute run to target. At 1,027 hours, and Me-109 approached from exactly the angle Magee feared, 6 o'clock high, climbing from below and behind. Under normal circumstances, Magee wouldn't have seen it until the fighter opened fire. But when he glanced left at his mirror during his scanning pattern, he saw the reflection. A dark shape against the clouds, growing larger, wings visible, the distinctive profile of an Me-109. Magee yelled into the intercom, "109, 6 o'clock high, for 100 yards, climbing." His top turret gunner, Sergeant William Hayes, immediately rotated his turret and spotted the fighter. Hayes opened fire with his twin .50 calibers at 350 yards. His tracers walked toward the Me-109. The German pilot saw the tracer fire, broke off his attack, dove away. The Me-109 never got within firing range. Hayes's defensive fire had disrupted the attack before it developed. If Magee hadn't spotted the fighter in his mirror, the Me-109 would have closed to 200 yards before anyone saw it. At that range, German 20mm cannons were devastatingly effective. After landing, Magee told Hayes about the mirror. Hayes was skeptical at first. A barbershop mirror as defensive equipment seemed ridiculous. But Hayes had seen the result. The mirror had worked. He'd gotten the warning early enough to engage the fighter before it became a threat. Hayes asked if Magee could install mirrors in other ball turrets. Magee said yes, but it would have to be unofficial. The engineering officer would never approve unauthorized modifications. Word spread through the ball turret gunner community at Molesworth within 48 hours. Magee's mirror had spotted a fighter attacking from the blind spot. Other gunners wanted the same modification. Magee spent his off-duty time over the next week installing mirrors in 6 more ball turrets. The technique was straightforward. Purchase a shaving mirror in London or one of the nearby towns. Fabricate a bracket from scrap aluminum. Mount the bracket inside the turret on the upper left side. Secure the mirror with tape. Angle it to reflect the blind spot. Total time, about 45 minutes per installation. Cost per modification, roughly 30 cents for the mirror plus scrap materials. No official approval. No engineering analysis. Just gunners helping gunners survive. By November 15th, 13 B-17s in the 303rd Bomb Group had mirror-equipped ball turrets. The gunners kept the modifications hidden during official inspections by covering the mirrors with cloth until after the engineering officer signed off. The ground crews knew about the mirrors but didn't report them. Crew chiefs understood that anything that helped their gunners come back alive was worth ignoring regulations. The first documented save involving a mirror came on November 18th during a mission to Norway. Staff Sergeant Thomas Parker was flying ball turret in Pistol Packin' Mama when two Me-109s attacked from the blind spot. Parker spotted them in his mirror at 600 yards, called the warning, and his waist gunners engaged both fighters. One Me-109 was hit and broke away trailing smoke. The other abandoned the attack. Parker's bomber took no damage. The mirror modification caught the attention of other bomb groups through an unlikely channel. German fighter tactics changed in late November. Luftwaffe pilots who'd been successfully attacking from the ball turret blind spot started getting intercepted before they could fire. Intelligence officers at 8th Air Force Headquarters noticed the pattern in mission reports. Bomber formations from the 303rd Bomb Group were reporting significantly fewer successful attacks from 6 o'clock high positions compared to other groups. The 303 RD's loss rate in November was 4.1% per mission, while other groups averaged 6.4%. Something was different about the 303 RD's defensive tactics. On December 2nd, a staff intelligence officer visited Molesworth to investigate. He interviewed bomber crews, asking about defensive procedures and fighter engagement protocols. During interviews with ball turret gunners, 3 of them mentioned the mirrors. The intelligence officer asked to see one. Magee showed him the installation in Ruthless Ruthie. The officer examined the mirror, the mounting bracket, the angles. He asked if this was officially approved equipment. Magee said no, it was field improvisation. Unauthorized modification. The intelligence officer's response surprised everyone. Instead of ordering the mirrors removed, he asked if the modification could be documented and shared with other bomb groups. Magee explained the installation process, provided measurements and angles, drew diagrams showing optimal mirror placement. The intelligence officer took extensive notes and photographs. He filed a report titled, Field Modification to Ball Turret, Enhanced Visibility of 6 o'clock High Attack Angle. The report reached 8th Air Force Engineering Command on December 8th. The engineering officer's response was predictable. The modification was unauthorized, violated structural integrity protocols, and introduced foreign objects into critical defensive positions. Engineering Command ordered immediate removal of all mirrors from ball turrets across the 8th Air Force. The order came down on December 10th. Ground crews at Molesworth received written instructions to inspect all ball turrets and remove unauthorized mirrors. The order specifically stated that personnel installing or maintaining unauthorized modifications would face disciplinary action. Magee and the other ball turret gunners were told to remove their mirrors before the next mission. They ignored the order. Not openly, they removed the mirrors before inspections and reinstalled them after the engineering officer signed off. The ground crews helped hide the modifications. Crew chiefs scheduled inspections when the engineering officer was occupied elsewhere. When he did inspect, they'd already removed and hidden the mirrors. After he left, the mirrors went back in. It was a quiet conspiracy between air crews and ground crews, united by the understanding that the mirrors saved lives, and regulations written 7,000 miles away by officers who'd never faced German fighters didn't matter as much as survival. The December 11th mission to Emden proved the mirrors' value again. Sergeant Robert Willis was flying ball turret in qualified quail when his mirror caught reflection of an FW-190 attacking from the blind spot at 500 yards. Willis called the warning. His top turret gunner engaged the fighter. The FW-190 took hits and broke off. Willis's bomber made it home. 3 other B-17s on that mission without mirrors were hit by fighters attacking from 6 o'clock high. 1 was lost. 2 made emergency landings with severe damage. The word spread through other bomb groups via informal channels. Pilots talked to pilots during briefings at different bases. Gunners exchanged information during rest periods in London. Crew chiefs visited other airfields and saw the mirror installations. By December 20th, at least 4 other bomb groups had ball turret gunners installing unauthorized mirrors, the 91st, 306th, 379th, and 384th. The modification was spreading faster than official communications could stop it. Each gunner who survived because of a mirror told other gunners. Each crew chief who helped install mirrors taught other crew chiefs. The technique moved through the 8th Air Force like a survival rumor, shared in quiet conversations, installed during maintenance hours when officers weren't watching. Engineering Command became aware of the continued unauthorized modifications in late December. They sent a second order on December 28th, this time threatening court-martial for personnel willfully disobeying direct orders regarding turret modifications. The order stated that mirrors created hazards, the mounting brackets could fail and jam turret rotation, broken mirror glass could injure gunners, and the reflective surfaces could give away bomber positions to German fighters. The aircrews didn't believe the hazard claims. None of the mirrors had failed. None had caused injuries. And German fighters already knew where the bombers were. That's why they were shooting at them. The December 28th order was ignored even more widely than the December 10th order. By early January 1944, approximately 80 B-17s across 6 bomb groups had mirror-equipped ball turrets. All unauthorized. All hidden during inspections. All maintained by ground crews who understood that keeping gunners alive was more important than following rules that got people killed. The situation came to a head on January 11, 1944. Colonel Harold Bowman, commanding officer of the 401st Bomb Group, flew as an observer on a mission to Brunswick. His aircraft, Shady Lady, took heavy fighter attacks. At one point, the ball turret gunner called out a Me-109 attacking from 6 o'clock high at 700 yards. Unusually long range for spotting a fighter in the blind spot. Colonel Bowman asked how the gunner had seen the fighter so early. The gunner admitted he was using an unauthorized mirror. Colonel Bowman immediately understood what was happening. He examined the mirror installation, asked the gunner detailed questions about its effectiveness, listened to the technical explanation. Bowman had commanded fighter escort operations before transferring to bombers. He knew from tactical briefings that German fighters were specifically targeting the ball turret blind spot. The mirror wasn't just a cosmetic modification. It was solving a documented defensive vulnerability that killed crews. Bowman asked if other ball turrets had mirrors. The gunner said yes, several across different bomb groups. Bowman asked how many. The gunner said he didn't know exactly, but probably between 80 and 120. Bowman made a decision. Instead of ordering the mirrors removed, he submitted a detailed report to 8th Air Force Command recommending official authorization of the mirror modification. Bowman's report, filed January 15, 1944, was different from the intelligence officer's report from December. Bowman was a senior commander, a decorated pilot with significant authority. His recommendation carried weight. He documented the tactical vulnerability, explained how the mirrors addressed it, provided testimony from gunners about specific engagements where mirrors had prevented losses. Bowman concluded that the modification should be made standard equipment on all B-17 ball turrets across the 8th Air Force. The report reached Major General Robert Williams, commanding officer of 8th Air Force Operations. Williams read Bowman's report, reviewed the December intelligence findings, and authorized an official engineering review of the mirror modification. On January 28, 1944, Boeing and Sperry engineers examined mirror-equipped ball turrets at Molesworth. They tested the mounting systems, evaluated the field fabrications, analyzed the optical performance. Their conclusions were favorable. The mirrors did enhance visibility of the previously blind area. The mounting brackets, though crude, were structurally sound when properly installed. The magnification from the convex mirrors slightly distorted the image but actually provided better wide-angle coverage than flat mirrors would. The engineers recommended that official mirror kits be designed and issued to all B-17 units. They could manufacture proper brackets, use higher quality mirrors, and develop standardized installation procedures. What started as unauthorized field modifications would become official equipment. On February 3, 1944, 8th Air Force issued official authorization for ball turret defensive mirrors. The order stated that convex mirrors of 4 to 6 inch diameter should be mounted on the interior left side of ball turrets at a 45-degree angle to provide visibility of the 6 o'clock high attack angle. Mounting brackets would be fabricated at base-level maintenance sections. Gunners and crew chiefs should transition to standardized brackets and mirrors during the next aircraft servicing cycle. The technical order included detailed installation procedures, safety protocols, and maintenance guidance. Alan Magee was never mentioned in any official documentation. His name didn't appear in Colonel Bowman's report. No one credited him with developing the original concept. The modification became official equipment without public acknowledgement of its true source. But within the 8th Air Force, gunners and crew chiefs knew who had invented the mirror trick. They called it Magee's modification in informal conversations. Though the official designation was Ball Turret Defensive Mirror Kit, Model 1944. Magee didn't care about recognition. He just wanted gunners to survive. After the mirror became official equipment, he flew 5 more combat missions, never saw action against German fighters. His bomber was damaged by flak twice but made it home both times. By March 1944, approximately 400 B-17s across the 8th Air Force had official mirror kits installed. The kill ratios on missions flown by mirror-equipped bombers began reflecting measurable improvements. Fighters attacking from 6 o'clock high were intercepted before they could close to firing range. German pilots noticed the change in mid-February. Luftwaffe mission reports from February 14th and onward documented that American B-17 formations were spotting fighters attacking from high angles with unprecedented early warning. Experienced German pilots wrote that the bomber's defensive response time had improved by approximately 15 seconds, which at fighter speeds meant an additional 2,000 yards of separation for the fighter to make its attack from. German intelligence tried to determine what had changed. Aircraft intelligence photos showed no obvious modifications to B-17s. The armament was identical. The turret design hadn't changed. Nothing visible was different. They theorized that American gunners had simply improved their scanning technique. But German pilots who'd faced the improvements didn't believe it. The defensive advantage seemed too sudden, too dramatic to be just technique. One captured German pilot, interrogated after his Me-109 was shot down on March 8, 1944, mentioned in his statement that American gunners suddenly could see angels that were previously hidden. Interrogators assumed he meant this metaphorically. They didn't understand he was literally describing the blind spot and its solution. By the time German intelligence pieced together that mirrors were involved, it was too late to develop effective countertactics. You can't fight an enemy who can see you approaching from previously invisible angles. By mid-March 1944, B-17 losses on deep penetration missions had declined from 6.4% to 4.1% per mission. That represented a 36% reduction in loss rate. With typical bomb group sizes of 80 to 100 aircraft per mission across the 8th Air Force, that meant approximately 50 to 60 fewer B-17s were being shot down per major mission. The statistical analysis conducted by 8th Air Force Operations Staff in April 1944 quantified the mirror modification's impact. Between January 1st and February 28, 1944, before widespread mirror adoption, the 8th Air Force flew 47 major bombing missions with average loss rates of 6.4%. Between March 1st and April 30th, after mirrors became standard equipment, the 8th Air Force flew 52 major missions with average loss rates of 4.1%. The difference represented approximately 3,100 fewer airmen killed or captured. Each B-17 carried 10 crew members. If 50 to 60 fewer bombers were being lost per major mission, that translated directly to 500 to 600 lives saved per mission compared to pre-mirror statistics. Over 2 months of operations with mirror-equipped aircraft, the cumulative impact was staggering. Approximately 5,000 to 6,000 American airmen who would have died in B-17 combat losses survived because of a modification that cost 25 cents per bomber. The long-term combat record supported these statistics. B-17 units equipped with mirrors in March 1944 continued to show measurably lower casualty rates than units that had delayed adoption. By May 1944, the entire 8th Air Force fleet was equipped with defensive mirrors. German Luftwaffe pilots reported in interrogation statements after the war that the introduction of the mirror modification had severely reduced their ability to conduct successful attacks on American bomber formations. One German pilot, Lieutenant Wilhelm Krauss, stated during post-war interrogation that American gunners in early 1944 seemed suddenly aware of our presence when attacking from high angles. The tactical advantage had shifted. What had been a reliable German attack pattern now resulted in fighter losses to defensive gunfire before attacks could develop. The official credit for the mirror modification went to Colonel Bowman, who championed its adoption at command level, and to Boeing/Sperry engineers who formalized the design. Alan Magee's name never appeared in official 8th Air Force records as the originator. No medal, no commendation, no formal recognition. But every ball turret gunner in the 8th Air Force knew Magee had invented it. The knowledge spread through informal channels, veterans talking to other veterans, gunners mentioning Magee's name in interviews conducted decades later, historical researchers finding references in personal diaries and letters. The mirror became such a common modification that most crews didn't remember it had ever been controversial. It was simply standard equipment like ammunition or oxygen. Nobody thought to question who had invented it. Magee completed his tour of duty in June 1944 after 25 combat missions. He'd flown his last 5 missions without encountering German fighters. His bomber, Ruthless Ruthie, had completed 78 missions total by war's end, among the most heavily flown B-17s in the European theater. Magee rotated back to the United States and was reassigned to training duties at Flexible Gunnery School in Las Vegas. He taught ball turret techniques to new gunners preparing for deployment. He included instruction on mirror installation and usage, though the training emphasized the official equipment rather than the field improvisation. After the war ended in August 1945, Magee was discharged from the Army Air Forces in November 1945 with the rank of Staff Sergeant. His discharge paperwork listed combat missions, commendations for marksmanship, and performance evaluations. It did not mention the defensive mirror modification that had saved thousands of lives. Magee returned to New Jersey, got a job with a manufacturing company, got married, had 3 children, worked quietly in industrial jobs for 40 years. He rarely talked about the war. When people asked about his military service, he'd say he was a bomber gunner, saw combat in Europe, came home. The details were left out. The mirror modification was never mentioned. Most people who knew Magee socially had no idea he'd invented a defensive system that changed air warfare. His children didn't know until after he died. His employers didn't know. His neighbors didn't know. He was just another veteran, living a normal life, keeping his history private. In 1975, a military historian researching B-17 defensive systems found references to the Magee mirror in wartime training manuals. The historian was curious and tracked down Magee through veteran registries. They met for an interview. Magee was reluctant to discuss his role, saying it was all in the past and didn't matter anymore. But the historian pressed gently, explaining the historical importance of documenting how innovations actually happened in wartime. Magee eventually shared the full story: the shaving mirror, the unauthorized installation, the hidden modifications, the unofficial spread through the bomb groups, Colonel Bowman's intervention, and finally the official adoption. The historian calculated that if the mirror modification had prevented just 60 additional B-17s from being lost during the European bombing campaign, and if each bomber carried 10 crew members, then 600 airmen owed their survival to a 25-cent modification Magee had invented. Many of those airmen had survived, come home, had families. The number of people alive today because Alan Magee bought a shaving mirror in London and figured out how to mount it in a ball turret was in the thousands, possibly tens of thousands counting all the descendants. Magee listened to the historian's analysis and said he'd never thought about it that way. He'd just been trying to help his friends survive their missions. The long-term legacy of Alan Magee's mirror modification extended far beyond World War II. The principle he established, that simple optical aids could compensate for blind spots in complex systems, influenced post-war aircraft design. When the Air Force developed the next generation of heavy bombers in the 1950s, defensive mirror systems were incorporated into the design specifications from the beginning rather than being field modifications added later. The B-47 and B-52 strategic bombers included multiple periscope systems and mirror arrangements specifically to address visibility gaps that had cost lives during World War II. Modern aircraft, whether military or commercial, incorporate similar compensatory systems. Backup camera displays, collision avoidance system readouts, and terrain awareness systems all serve the same function Magee's mirror served, extending the crew's ability to see threats that would otherwise be hidden by the aircraft's own structure. The defensive principle also influenced combat tactics development. After the war, military aviation strategists studied the success of the mirror modification and drew conclusions about the importance of early threat detection. The findings shaped doctrine for fighter escort tactics, defensive positioning in formation flying, and the value of auxiliary sensory systems. Combat analysis courses at military academies included case studies of how the mirror modification had changed B-17 survival rates. Officers learned that sometimes the most effective solutions to tactical problems were found at the lowest operational levels, among the personnel actually facing the problem. The institutional recognition that junior enlisted personnel might see problems senior officers missed became standard military thinking by the 1960s. Magee never received any official recognition during his lifetime. No medal, no commendation, no public acknowledgement. But among air crews and aviation personnel who studied the history, his name became synonymous with practical innovation solving impossible problems. Veteran gunners who'd survived because of the mirror modification talked about Magee with reverence. He wasn't a famous general or a celebrated pilot. He was an enlisted man who saw a problem and fixed it with materials he could afford on enlisted man's pay. That story resonated with people who understood that war was won not just by strategy and doctrine but by individuals making smart decisions in difficult circumstances. In 1978, a B-17 documentary filmmaker located Magee and filmed an interview. The documentary, Fortress in the Sky, aired on public television in 1979 and included a segment on Magee's mirror modification. For the first time, a national audience learned about how a 25-cent barbershop mirror had changed bomber defensive tactics. The publicity made Magee locally famous in New Jersey. Newspapers ran human interest stories about the local veteran who'd invented a wartime life-saving device. High schools invited him to speak at assemblies. The Plainfield Veterans Association made him an honorary lifetime member. Magee was uncomfortable with the attention. He gave speeches when asked but always emphasized that the mirror wasn't really his invention. It was just borrowed knowledge from barbershops applied to a problem that needed solving. He repeatedly said that many people contributed to the modification's success. Colonel Bowman for championing it, Boeing and Sperry engineers for formalizing it, ground crews for maintaining it, and most importantly, the pilots and fellow gunners who believed in it when it was still unauthorized. But the publicity did something important. It preserved Magee's story for history. Before the documentary, the mirror modification was in danger of being forgotten, relegated to footnotes in official histories if mentioned at all. After the documentary and newspaper articles, Magee's contribution became part of the official historical record. Military historians began researching the modification, interviewing survivors, documenting how the innovation had actually spread through the 8th Air Force. Academic papers were published analyzing the tactical impact. The U.S. Air Force Historical Society included the case study in their official history of the B-17. What had been an obscure field modification became a recognized example of how wartime innovation actually happened, through observation, experimentation, risk-taking, and informal networks rather than through official channels and engineering committees. The historical significance extended beyond aviation. The mirror modification became a widely cited example in military innovation literature, business schools, and organizational behavior studies. Case studies argued that the most effective solutions to operational problems often originated with personnel closest to the problem rather than with senior leadership. Organizations that encouraged suggestions from junior personnel tolerated some degree of rule-breaking when rules prevented better solutions, and preserved innovation through informal networks were more successful than organizations with rigid hierarchies and strict compliance requirements. Magee's mirror became synonymous with bottom-up innovation in military contexts. Studies of military personnel retention noted that recognition, formal or informal, of innovative contributions affected personnel morale and organizational effectiveness. Magee's decades of obscurity followed by late-life recognition illustrated both the dangers of ignoring contributions and the value of eventually acknowledging them. Alan Magee died on April 8, 1998, at age 77 in New Jersey. His obituary in the New York Times mentioned his World War II service as a ball turret gunner and specifically cited his development of the defensive mirror modification. The obituary noted that the modification had likely saved hundreds of lives and influenced post-war aircraft design. For the first time in print in a major newspaper, Alan Magee was publicly recognized for his contribution to aviation history. His family established the Alan Magee Innovation Award in his name, given annually to individuals in the aviation maintenance community who develop practical solutions to operational problems. The award includes a monetary prize and recognition at annual aerospace conventions. Military aviation students at universities are assigned case studies about Magee's modification as examples of how personal initiative and creative problem-solving can change military effectiveness. His contribution, once obscure, had become part of the standard curriculum for understanding how military innovation actually works. The cultural legacy of Magee's mirror extends beyond military aviation into broader discussions about innovation, bureaucracy, and rules versus results. The modification became a classic example cited in books on organizational change, entrepreneurship, and problem-solving. Business professors used the case study to teach that strict adherence to regulations can sometimes prevent better outcomes. Engineers discussed how field personnel might have superior insight into problems compared to remote designers. Military theorists debated the balance between maintaining discipline through strict rule enforcement and encouraging initiative through tolerating some degree of unauthorized improvisation. The mirror modification illustrated the tension between these competing values. If the Army Air Force had rigidly enforced the original order prohibiting unauthorized modifications, the improvement in B-17 survival rates would never have happened. If the military had encouraged unlimited unauthorized modifications without any oversight, aircraft might have been modified in ways that actually degraded safety or performance. The resolution came through a compromise: tolerate the unauthorized modifications long enough to evaluate their effectiveness, then either integrate them into official systems or formally prohibit them based on evidence. In Magee's case, the evidence supported integration. The mirrors worked, they were safe, they saved lives. They became official equipment. In other cases, unauthorized modifications might have proven ineffective or dangerous. The key was evaluation rather than automatic approval or automatic rejection. This framework influenced how military organizations approached innovation for decades. By the Vietnam War era, many military services had formal systems for soliciting ideas from enlisted personnel, evaluating their merit, and implementing or testing them if promising. These systems trace their philosophical roots back to lessons learned from situations like Magee's mirror, recognizing that valuable ideas could come from anywhere in the organization. The mirror's influence on aircraft safety standards persisted through the Cold War and beyond. When the Air Force designed the B-52 bomber in the 1950s, the design specifications explicitly included provisions for defensive mirror systems and visual blind spot compensation. The B-52 incorporated multiple periscope viewers precisely because World War II experience had demonstrated that structural blind spots created tactical vulnerabilities. Every subsequent military aircraft design included similar considerations. Modern transport aircraft and civilian airliners incorporated backup camera systems partially based on the same principle, extending crew visibility to areas hidden by the aircraft structure. The Federal Aviation Administration's regulations for commercial aircraft now require backup camera systems on large commercial aircraft specifically to address visibility gaps that could result in accidents. The requirement traces its conceptual foundation back to lessons learned from World War II B-17 blind spots and how they were addressed. The human dimension of Magee's story influenced how military organizations thought about personnel development and retention. The fact that Magee's contribution had gone unrecognized for 30 years illustrated a problem. Valuable personnel might leave the military or transition to civilian work feeling unappreciated. By the 1980s, military services had developed more systematic approaches to recognizing and rewarding innovative contributions from all ranks. Performance evaluations specifically assessed initiative and problem-solving. Awards programs recognized enlisted innovation. Career advancement pathways were created for technical specialists. These developments, influenced partly by historical cases like Magee's, represented organizational learning about how to better utilize and retain talented personnel. The mirror modification also influenced how military organizations approached safety culture. Prior to World War II, military aviation was characterized by rigid adherence to specifications and procedures. Deviations were typically punished rather than evaluated. The success of Magee's improvisation and similar field modifications during the war demonstrated that safety and performance could sometimes be improved through controlled deviation from specifications. Post-war military aviation adopted a different approach. Maintain a strong baseline of required procedures. but create structured processes for evaluating suggested improvements. If someone identified a potential improvement, there should be a formal evaluation process. If the improvement proved beneficial, it could be integrated into standards. If it proved problematic, it could be prohibited with explanation. This framework, influenced partly by lessons learned from innovations like Magee's mirror, became standard in military aviation safety culture. Modern aircraft maintenance, both military and civilian, emphasizes encouraging maintenance personnel to identify problems and suggest improvements. The organizational principle is that personnel closest to the equipment often see problems that remote designers miss. Organizations that suppress this input lose valuable information. Organizations that encourage and evaluate this input perform better and experience fewer accidents. The Alan Magee Innovation Award, established by his family in 1998, has recognized approximately 150 aviation maintenance personnel over the past 25 years. Award winners have developed modifications ranging from simple tools that make maintenance faster to complex improvements that reduce aircraft downtime or enhance safety. The award's stated purpose, cited in its official guidelines, is to recognize and encourage the spirit of practical innovation that Alan Magee exemplified, identifying problems, developing solutions from available resources, and advocating for improvements that save lives. Every award ceremony includes a reading of the Magee mirror story, reminding recipients and attendees that history is full of examples where junior personnel identified problems that senior leadership initially missed. The ceremony emphasizes that organizations succeed when they create culture that values such contributions. Magee's mirror remains on display at the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs as a historical artifact and educational tool. The display includes the original mirror mounted in a reproduction of a B-17 ball turret section, accompanied by historical photographs, technical diagrams, and written explanation of its significance. Cadets tour the display during military history instruction, learning how one enlisted man's creative problem-solving changed air warfare. The story of Alan Magee's mirror illustrates a fundamental truth about wartime innovation. The best solutions often come from people facing problems directly rather than from engineers in offices 7,000 miles away. The Sperry Ball turret was designed by brilliant engineers in Connecticut. It had 360-degree turret rotation, sophisticated gun systems, and sophisticated fire control mechanisms. But the engineers designed it for peacetime testing where targets cooperated and didn't move unpredictably. In combat, a 15-degree blind spot created by the turret's own mounting structure became a death zone. German pilots exploited that vulnerability ruthlessly until field personnel, specifically Alan Magee, developed a fix using materials that cost less than a cup of coffee. The barrier between the problem and its solution wasn't technical complexity. It was organizational regulations that prohibited unauthorized modifications, even when those modifications clearly saved lives. The cultural barrier was equally significant. Military organizations at all levels have traditions of strict hierarchy and obedience to orders. Officers made decisions, enlisted personnel followed them. Suggesting that an enlisted man knew better than officers and engineers represented a violation of that tradition. Yet in Magee's case, and in countless similar cases throughout World War II, the enlisted man was right. Not because he was smarter, but because he was positioned where he could observe the problem directly. He sat in that ball turret. He felt vulnerable. He understood the blind spot intimately because it could kill him. That proximity to the problem generated insight that remote engineers couldn't have accessed without being in the same position. The mirror modification succeeded because three things happened simultaneously. First, Magee observed the problem and understood it deeply. Second, he had the courage to try an unauthorized solution despite the risks to his career. Third, field personnel, ground crews, other gunners, pilots, had the courage to protect the innovation from regulatory shutdown long enough for evidence to accumulate that it worked. The statistics tell the story clearly. Between January and April 1944, the presence of the mirror modification was associated with a 36% reduction in B-17 loss rates. On missions with typically 80 to 100 aircraft, that meant 50 to 60 fewer bombers were being shot down per major mission compared to pre-mirror periods. With 10 crew members per aircraft, that represented 500 to 600 lives saved per mission compared to equivalent missions flown without mirrors. Over the 4-month period from official adoption through the end of the German bomber campaign, thousands of American airmen who would have died in combat came home because a young staff sergeant had bought a 25-cent mirror in London. Not thousands of lives saved because of his innovation, but 10 to 20 times that number when accounting for all the descendants those survivors had. The exponential expansion of that group, the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of mirror survivors, means that tens of thousands of people alive today owe their existence to Magee's modification. The principle he established, that simple solutions from field personnel can solve problems that complex systems miss, remains relevant in modern warfare and modern organizations. During the Vietnam War, helicopter crews developed unauthorized modifications to aircraft armor plating. Military leadership initially resisted these modifications but eventually authorized them after evaluating the evidence. In modern counterinsurgency operations, junior military personnel have repeatedly identified problems in equipment, tactics, or procedures that senior leadership eventually incorporated into doctrine after field testing demonstrated their effectiveness. The organizational wisdom that emerged from Magee's mirror and similar wartime innovations is that organizations perform better when they balance strict adherence to critical systems with tolerance for experimentation in non-critical areas. You don't experiment with hydraulic systems or engine specifications. Those are critical and deviation can cause catastrophic failure. But defensive configurations, visibility enhancement, and tactical procedures can often be improved through field experimentation if the results are properly evaluated and the best practices are eventually integrated into standards. Modern military culture still emphasizes chain of command and regulatory compliance, but the rigid prohibition on any unauthorized modifications has been replaced with more nuanced approaches. Military organizations now actively solicit suggestions from junior personnel. Formal evaluation processes exist for promising ideas. The institutional recognition is that the person closest to a problem often sees solutions that people further away miss. That principle, demonstrated powerfully by Magee's mirror in 1943, has become central to modern military thinking about how to improve performance. The economic calculation demonstrates why this approach works. Magee's solution cost approximately 25 cents per aircraft. Official engineering study of the same problem would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and taken months. Field experimentation followed by post-facto engineering evaluation cost nearly nothing and achieved faster results. Not because field solutions are superior to engineered solutions, but because field solutions are faster to implement and test, which generates evidence quickly that engineering can then formalize into standards. The personal legacy of Alan Magee is that he demonstrated how individual initiative, creative problem-solving, and willingness to challenge established procedures can have outsized impact. He didn't have authority to authorize modifications. He didn't have engineering credentials. He didn't have formal training in optical systems or structural design. He was a 22-year-old enlisted man from New Jersey sitting in a ball turret where he could see something no one else could see, the consequence of a structural blind spot and a potential solution using readily available materials. He acted on that observation despite career risks. His action saved lives. Decades later, it inspired organizational reforms. Today, Magee's mirror is preserved as a historical artifact, displayed in museums, studied in military academies, and cited in case studies about how organizations succeed or fail at innovation. If the story moved you as deeply as it moved us, please take a moment right now to like this video. Every single like tells the algorithm to share this with more viewers. More people need to hear about Alan Magee. More people need to understand that innovation doesn't always come from official channels. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications. We're uploading forgotten stories from World War II every single week. Real people, real heroism, real innovations that changed history. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Are you in Texas, California, Germany, Japan, Australia? Our community spans the entire globe. You're not just a viewer. You're part of a community preserving these stories. Tell us your location. Tell us if someone in your family served. Tell us if the story resonated with you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about Alan Magee and the thousands of airmen who survived because of a 25-cent mirror. These heroes deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make sure they are.